Hello, beloved ones. My name is Robin Flynn, and I am co-founder of Visionary Hearts and Star River Sanctuary. My husband, Darcy, and I are shamanic practitioners, and we have many students and many people that we've worked with over the last 18 years. And today I'm bringing a teaching forward to offer into the field of your heart, recognizing that we're in this time where so many of our community members are coming to us reporting that this intense contraction energy around money, prosperity, health, capacity is so activated. And as we've been receiving calls over the last few months, and really like this has been very activated in our circles, very deep, primal, instinctual patterns of fear around not having enough, not being enough, have been kind of hijacking the show for many of us. And I say us because I feel that the energy around scarcity and the wound of scarcity can be like a viral pattern in the collective. And as I've been sitting in prayer and meditation about this, about how Darcy and I could best serve you, our beautiful, ever growing community, I recognize that this light code transmission, this teaching, really needed to be expressed. So, thank you for finding me. Thank you for Spirit connecting us. I pray that everything that is offered here, from my heart to yours, through this non-local field of quantum potential, be truly a blessing. I share this as an act of love for what we truly are, for how beautiful we truly are when all the illusions and distortions fall away. I also recognize that in our larger community, that there are many, many, many who are in very deep and real healing processes. A lot of times when we're talking about the law of attraction and manifestation and these different pieces of, magic, but also the New Age movement, it can get a bit disconnected from the reality of where many of us are living within. And so the metric of any teaching that I or we bring forward to you is this true and relevant for everyone in our community? Is this true and relevant for those who are just looking to enhance performance and be able to serve more and fully in their joy, their health, vitality, relational abundance? Is it relevant there? And is it also relevant for our community members who are in the very depths of the most extreme healing crises that we can have as a human family, including the process of transitioning from this world, including the process of separation, of divorce, of these breakdowns that are often necessary for us to continue our soul evolutionary growth, and yet are excruciating when we're in them. And so I offer this teaching for the larger field of our community. And I pray that if you find relevance in this, if it speaks to you, please share it with anyone who you feel could benefit from this. For this is freely offered, and we love you so much. Darcy and I's Dharma is to help to resource, empower, and cheerlead the rise of the next generation of planetary medicine workers, the next generation of planetary universal shamans. And we must address the wound of scarcity within us and within the collective pattern in order to do this. And this, of course, this work is never done. There's deeper and deeper expressions of it. But I want to begin by sharing what the wound of scarcity is. And as I have discovered as we've been tracking this, I want to share how we've been tracking it. I mean, one, through my and Darcy's lived experience, also through our ceremonial work, which has involved over the last, 19 years with the sacred plant medicines in ceremonial work, and beyond that as well in other ceremonial traditions. Thousands of entheogenic and shamanic ceremonies, working with the master teacher plants from around the world, diving deep into the living wisdom traditions of the medicine ways, as well as many of the ancient mystery teachings and mystery schools. Bridging this with new science and the leading edge of where our Western therapeutic models are guiding us. And we bring all of this together to inform all of our work. And that is where this deeper understanding, this deeper teaching, this light code on the wound of scarcity and true prosperity is sourced from. So what's very important to understand about scarcity is that it is truly a wound held within the collective field, the morphogenic field of humanity. The wound of scarcity is a pattern in the field. And as shamanic practitioners, as we're in our apprenticeship process, little by little, we open what's known as our shamanic sight or our vista. And as a vista opens, we begin to experience, feel, sense, see, even hear different patterns within our own bioluminous field, which is what informs our body. And also then when we begin to be in service to others, to feel, sense, hear these patterns within others. And so really all of the ceremonial shamanic work as practitioners is tracking patterns. And these patterns can appear visually, they can appear in all sorts of different ways. And the pattern in the field that manifests as disease is not just psychological or physical. It's not just emotional. It's actually epigenetic, it's ancestral, and it's collective. And so these patterns that get held in the field of what we come in as souls into, which our soul is forever pure, invincible innocence. Nothing in this world of form can touch the true essential nature of what we actually are. It can appear to, but that appearance is an illusion. But through that illusion, the infinite source creative nature of what we are, through that illusion manifests the world of form. It manifests our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our spirits, our experience here. And for the vast majority of humans playing the game, of really divine, infinite souls having a spiritual experience, playing the human game, a huge part of the game is experiencing, going from the infinite nature of what we are to experiencing the finite limitation that's possible here. And within this limitation, one of the greatest illusions or stories is the story, the wound of scarcity. And what's wild is that even though this is the exact opposite of our true essential nature and what every baby is born into, like what we are when we come here, we immediately imprint into our family field, which is tied to the ancestral field, which is tied to the collective field. And we're imprinted with all this information, some of it spoken, but the vast majority of it energetic. And from that imprinting of information, we then orient as a soul of what is this place? What is this? How should I be? How do I be like these beings that I am completely dependent on in this experience. And in our innocence, we take on everything. And we imprint onto what's already here as though it is reality, it is the truth. And almost all of it isn't. Almost all of it is just information that has been held in the field, and it's like it's cycling, continually cycling. And as one of the medicine wheel teachings of our elder Duncan Grady says, what is not transformed is transmitted. And we have all been transmitted a massive complex within one wound of scarcity. And it's a complex because it's multifaceted. And so this wound of scarcity is inherited through the age of separation. And really, we have been in a time, a epoch, an era where humans, where these divine souls having a human experience have vastly experienced and grown our souls through this experience, through separation and fear. And at the root of this separation is judgment. And almost always that judgment brings us to the wound of scarcity. Let me break this down a little bit more. So until we begin to see how these energetic patterns shape our consciousness, shape our experience of reality, then we can never actually alchemize and transmute them. For in order to heal something, the first step is consciousness. The first step is shining the light of consciousness into these places. And until the wound of scarcity, which is like, it's like all of these gossamer threads, there's one nexus point, and in my body, it's right in the middle of my solar plexus, about 3 inches in. That's a nexus point of where this wound has lived. And as I'm slowly and steadily alchemizing the wound of scarcity, then this power is being liberated within me. For everything that we heal becomes power, becomes soul power. And soul power medicine is alchemizing and transforming all these inherited wounds, all this inherited harm, individually, ancestrally, collectively. And while it's heavy lifting, the benefit is the more that we heal individually, epigenetically, collectively, the more power we cultivate within our bioluminous field. And it grows our luminous bubble, our energy field, the resilience of our nervous systems, which is an expression of our luminous field. An expression of our light body is the nervous system. It grows that into greater resilience and adaptability. And that resilience and adaptability of doing this work builds a bigger and bigger baseline. And that baseline is what manifests as physical health and vitality. And so as we're doing this work on the wound of scarcity, which honestly, friends, is at the root of almost all of our dis-ease on the planet. And I can say that from a very personal place because I have experienced and lived within severe chronic illness, undiagnosable grossness, untreatable by Western medicine. And through the sacred technology of the Mesa, the Pachacuti Mesa, through the sacred technology, the emissaries of Gaian and divine love, the master teacher plants, through the love of truth and continuing to go deeper and deeper and deeper and applying all of this holistically, I had a full healing. My whole body has healed from the genetics up. So the wound of scarcity is really, for me, is at the root of my disease. And I see it as at the root of almost every true disease. And now disease is different than healing crisis. Disease is the state, the lived experience state of unwellness, of disconnection from our true essential nature. Dis-ease is being in the lie, and it's gross. And I know you know, because we've all been there. We all get there. We're just like, oh, it's just so terrible. And we begin to believe more and more and more of the illusion and the lie. And so the wound of scarcity can be challenging to track because it hides in plain sight. Scarcity is camouflaged in the collective zeitgeist of our time. Scarcity is camouflaged in the collective zeitgeist of our time. Everything within the larger dream of our culture and our global culture has these dark interwoven threads of this illusory wound. This pattern of scarcity is built into every single level of our culture. Really, if you could zoom out farther and farther, and we're back into your star seed light being self, way out, looking at the collective of humanity, you would see all these beings so caught in this shadow dream that over and over and over, they're choosing to stay within the limitation that is a complete illusion. And yet, as we make this transition, and this is really something that we have to do over and over and over because there's so many threads, we can see that the ways that we justify scarcity, it can pose within us as rationality. Like, well, this is, of course, the only thing I can do. Of course, I need to do this. This is the only way to do it. This is the only way I'm going to survive. It can pose as ambition, as self-improvement. It can pose as compromise. How much have we compromised of ourselves for money? The greatest harm humans have placed upon one another has been caused at the root by the wound of scarcity. Rape, slavery, almost all the wars for territory. It goes really deep, and it's actually super dark. It's gross, and it lives within us until we transform it. It lives like a silent stress in the field. And when these energies, these wounds, these patterns are unconscious, they're silent and they're like blind spots. So it's really hard to see them. And yet it motivates and drives us from a deep feeling state. And so when this wound of scarcity is activated in the nervous system, it's activated as a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. Some of us, when this is really activated, we go into like a hypo response. We just collapse. And it's like absolute lack of belief in self. Why bother? I'm not going to make it. I need to find somebody else to do this for me. I don't have any creative power. I need to find somebody to fix me. I need to look like somebody out there will be able to do this for me. When we're in the scarcity of health, that is the doctor, the magic worker, the healer. When we're in the scarcity of money, it's the welfare system, somebody outside of us who has more money giving us money, waiting for the windfall from an outside place, believing that if we just have enough money, then we can finally be happy, we can finally rest, we can finally be at peace. Everything will be okay if we just have enough money. And when we're in a hyperactive stress response, when the nervous system is all geared up, then it's like, what, I need to do more. I'm going to work more. I'm going to succeed more. It's really that driven trait. We push everything along, and in the pushing, it repels those really beautiful, good things from coming to us. And also then in that hyper response, we hoard. We are very ungenerous because we might need it later. And who are those people who don't work nearly as much as us? They don't deserve it. They need to get off their asses. And these energies then wind together to create all these relational dynamics within the larger relational field of humanity, within our families, our communities, our work environments. And for the vast majority of energetically what's happening, even if there can be success in that looks outer, like the big house, like the cars, like the things, inside is not prosperous. For the vast majority of people, no matter how much money we have, true prosperity is absent. And the wound of scarcity is alive and the most present. And yet it's hidden, it's woven like almost like a net that you can only see in certain lights, like spider webs, like that. But once you begin to see the pattern, you're like, oh, this is how it's activated in me. This is how I have believed if I have this money, then I'll be able to feel this way. So I don't allow myself to feel that way because on a deeper level, I've programmed myself to only give myself permission to feel peace and ease and contentment when there's this goal that has been met. There's this much money. But then, as anybody who's experienced this knows, once you get that amount of money, it's not enough. There needs to be more and more. And so it's like the carrot or the goal that can never be met. And so the peace is never experienced. And I know this one very intimately because I am a very passionate, driven person for the intrinsic pressure I feel to do my work in this world, to be of service, has been so great that even while I'm in service, I will not allow myself to feel that peace, that joy, even in all of the different moments of success and beauty and profound, miraculous healing that's being facilitated through the spirits and I get to be witness to, because of that goal-driven mentality. But also in the wound of scarcity, we can believe that some inner state of feeling like, when I just get this healthy, then I will love and appreciate my body. The scarcity of health, of these ideas of what the body should be and what it's not, and how we won't give ourselves permission to truly feel appreciation and peace within our experience of embodiment until some artificial goal of perfection is attained. And so here's two examples of how the wound of scarcity in money and in physical health manifest. But I'm sure if you look closely, you can see how this manifests in your partnerships, in your other intimate relationships, in your relationship to your creative expression. All these ways that this almost silent, invisible pattern weaves around, and it's all an illusion. But the biggest challenge within this illusion is not that it's there, and not that we're all going to be interfacing and needing to clear this and alchemize it probably every day of our lives to some degree or another until we hit that point where we're just an abiding awakening and it's can't catch us anymore. But for the vast majority of us, the problem isn't the illusion, it's the identity that we form around the illusion. So the biggest problem is that we begin to identify with the scarcity, the beliefs that have been born out of this wound. And the seed beliefs, the seed thoughts from which this wound traps us, they're like thought traps. I know so intimately it's been such a big issue because it's kind of like my core wound. And for many of us, it is like, I am not enough. I'll never be enough. I'm not good enough. That's a big one for a lot of us. And man, when that core wound gets like dinged for me, I go into the most incredible energetic collapse. And it's wild because I've been aware of it since I was a teenager and I've done so much work. And it's like, I can be good for years. And then there's something that comes up that just still slips under and it hits it. And if I don't catch that, that wound then acts like a viral fractal pattern that can move through my entire being. And all of a sudden, instead of being in the good reality of the beauty, love, truth, and abundance that is always here, that is just Gaia, that we just are, I all of a sudden very quickly am in the bad reality. I'm in this overlay of what some people call the matrix, which is basically the overlay of separation consciousness, a fear-based consciousness. And it's totally up to me to catch it. It's my trigger. And it's not anybody out there who've been pushing those buttons. It's mine. And so the process of shining a light of consciousness to this pattern over and over and catching it in its gross forms, the very obvious forms, and then also beginning to catch it in the subtler and subtler and subtler forms, which, because our entire global culture and what we have dreamt into being of our financial system and all the storylines running through the collective around money, this is something that it's like spider webs we're caught in often. I notice I'll just be like, oh, wow, I just have to like pull that off. That's not actually true. That's not, just because everybody is believing it doesn't mean it's true. In fact, the core assumptions that we hold are almost always not true. And what's really wild about the wound of scarcity is that it hits this stress response. And I go very deep into this, and Darcy and I go very deep into this teaching around how stress and the different forms of stress impact us from a psychoneuroimmunology standpoint, and the interface between the new science of psychoneuroimmunology and the ancient wisdom medicine streams. We have a whole teaching on this, and this is available at our website, visionaryhearts.com. And it's you can find it on our homepage, and it's called Where Science and Shamanism Meet. And you can download that for free. You can check out more of our work at visionaryhearts.com. And this stress response, which is a whole conversation of its own that we go into in this teaching video on our website, stress breeds scarcity consciousness, and the idea and the energetic pattern of scarcity breeds stress. Stress is the number one toxin. this toxin of stress, this energy creates a cascade within our bodies from the hormonal and the deep hormonal to cellular level, and it cascades our system with survival chemistry. And when we're in that survival chemistry state, we do not have access to our true essential nature, which is actually what we can access when our inner space is calm, but also breeds all these gross energies of scarcity, of jealousy, of envy, of overachieving, of hoarding. Oh, there's so much grossness in it. And when we're in that survival chemistry and we're in the illusion of scarcity, it's almost impossible to be in gratitude, to be in appreciation for what is. And even though it's almost cliche to the point of like, you're going to be like so irritated that I even say this, that the antidote to scarcity is appreciation. It's the feeling of gratitude. It's not the idea of gratitude, it's the feeling. And when we are caught in this trap of scarcity and self-judgment, it's not possible to judge something and appreciate it simultaneously. And now I want to close this by really speaking about judgment. And judgment is the root of all suffering. Now, I know within the Buddhist cosmology, as I did go to a Buddhist college for 4 years, and I love Buddhism, and I am no ism. I'm just choosing to not be an ism this life. I'm just going beyond any ism. I'm loving every mystical tradition. And, the Buddhists have often said the root of suffering is desire and aversion. And yes, there's truth in that. But what I found in my own being is that desire and aversion are fairly natural biological responses to stimuli. Naturally, cells move towards some things and away from others. Children have these huge meltdowns because they really, really, really want the ice cream cone, or they really, really don't want to go to bed. But once the storm of the big desire or the big aversion has passed, they're free. There's no suffering. There's big feelings, there's a big energy, but there's no suffering in it. And suffering, in my experience, only comes online with judgment. It's the judging process of this is essentially good. This is essentially bad. And we have programmed into the living soma of our bodies from the epigenetic level layers and layers and layers of pre-existing judgment inherited from our ancestors and the collective zeitgeist. And this judgment is really what, excuse my language, but I'm going to say it, fucks our shit up. It's the judgment. It's not the desire and aversion. Those are natural parts of the creative process. And we are creative beings. We are essentially source creation expressing itself through the human form, the human experience. And desire and aversion are natural. Judgment is where the ship starts to sink and all the horror stories begin. And judgment is a place where we are separate from our true essential nature, because our true essential nature, if we have a word for it, that word is love. Now, there's no way to encompass what we are or the truth in words. It's like, I'm hoping in this teaching, I can fall in line with what Adyashanti says, which is, it's impossible to speak the truth, but I'm going to strive to fail well. I can't speak the truth. We can only experience the truth. So everything I'm sharing is like pointing in the direction of my lived experience and being in service to hundreds and hundreds and thousands of others, hundreds intimately in their healing journey, and thousands more through these types of teaching foundations, these types of teaching platforms. And what I've seen over and over and over is it's not the feeling, it's not the inner state that is the problem that causes the disease. It's the judgment of it. It's not when my body was at all these crazy places of pain and what was, fundamentally felt deeply out of balance. What caused the disease was my judgment of my body, my judgment of myself, my judgment of life, of the world. And what really manifests that through scarcity in money is our judgment around it. For in reality, and then our judgment, and then, of course, the choices we make from that judgment. So we judge, and then we utilize all of the creative power of our infinite divine nature to manifest from that level. And then we begin the creative process of reinforcing the feedback loop of scarcity, the feedback loop of not enough. And the more energy we feed into that, the more we spiral down in an entropic cascade until finally we break down completely. Which is okay, because ultimately, one way or another, no soul is left behind. We either awaken in this life or we awaken upon our last breath into the worlds of light. This I know to be true. And so in this day, in this time when there is so much fear porn, scarcity porn, separation porn, and righteous judgment of the other from all sides. There's a lot of righteousness and there's a lot of judgment, and I'm absolutely sure that I'm right and you're wrong. And that is a place where we give over our creative power to the illusion. It's through judgment, and then it's through creating from that place of judgment and reinforcing that manifestation into this beautiful world as an artificial overlay. And we can do that forever, and it's really not a problem. In fact, that might just actually be what a lot of souls are going to choose to do this lifetime. Because being right when we're in judgment, even if it's to like even in a way that completely harms ourselves, harms our relationships, sometimes it's just too juicy to not do. Like it's just like, oh, I'm just so right and they're so wrong. And that feels kind of good, let's admit it. And yet, for some of us, like myself, I love truth more than I love being right. I have a deep intrinsic need to live in integrity with my own heart and my own soul. And really, I feel that this love of truth, it's been greater than even my addiction to being right, my judgment of my body and life. And that has made all the difference in the world for truly and fully healing my body, my life, my relationships, and expanding an ever-growing true prosperity, which sometimes manifests in financial abundance and windfalls, but honestly manifests more as vitality, having a life that is so rich in love with my family, having a community that is rich in care and compassion. This is true prosperity. And being able, when I lie down to go to bed, to smile and honor my heart, my body, and how I've shown up in a day with the greatest sincerity possible. And to keep meeting all these illusory constructs that feel deeply contracting, to keep meeting those from the truth and seeing the illusion that they are and reclaiming the soul power that is within them. So if you would like to learn more, and we will be bringing more